Hello and welcome to Kicking Tires. My name is Jimmy.
And I'm Justin.
It is August 10th, another week of exciting automotive news. I was going to say, is there no electric vehicle news this week? But unfortunately, there is. Well, or fortunately, depending how you think about it. But let's dive right into it here. First thing, very, very non-electrical. This is Lamborghini. Lamborghini is they're doing something crazy here with the new Urus. They want to prove themselves or prove to everyone else, I guess, that their Urus is record setting. So they put it up to Pikes Peak and got a Pikes Peak record of 10 minutes, 32 seconds, and was it 18 seconds faster than the last record, which was a Bentley Bentayga.
Which wouldn't really be that competitive of an SUV regardless.
But it's
Like,
it's the same owner.
yeah, I think they're just taking turns because they know the fastest one is the Cayenne Turbo GT. So they've got everyone's got to have a chance at the podium.
Yeah.
So last time we ran the Bentayga, Bravo Bentley. Now we're gonna run the Lambo. Oh, good job, Lambo. But realistically, the Cayenne's gonna take it. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, or some electric SUV.
Maybe
Maybe
some
a
electric
plaid.
thing.
Maybe someone will do a Model X plaid and build
Run.
to
Yeah.
those. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would probably maybe beat a
Urus.
yeah.
Maybe.
Well, and the nice thing about electric is you don't have to worry about elevation.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about it losing power at the top end. Yeah.
Mhm.
I was reading this blurb here. Essentially, this is a brand new model of the Urus. Well, like not brand new. I mean, it still looks like the Urus, but it's going to be a new model that's released on August 19th. We don't exactly know what that is going to be like, but I guess we'll have to wait till the August 19th. What they did say, God, can't English tonight, is they're using Pirelli P0 Trofeo Rs, 285s up front and 325s in the rear.
Yeah,
325 is pretty meaty.
Pirelli specifically makes this tire for people that want to track their SUV because, like, you wouldn't run this size of tire on any sports car. It's kind of interesting that they to do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Because, I mean, I guess there's a segment for this now, right? You got the Urus, RSQ8, Cayenne, like we said earlier.
Yeah. One of
Our
our
RAV6
local
will probably fit this.
track days, one guy's
Just,
been coming a lot with his Macan. Yeah.
was it the same guy that I saw when
Yes.
I went to VIMC?
When he
Yeah.
was at Ridge too. Like,
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Yeah, he went hard in that thing because the brakes were smoking when he came back.
I mean, anything that weight would smoke. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, we're concerned, like, I'm running a Supra or an M2 and I'm not satisfied with these brakes. And you look at these SUVs and they run similar, well, at least a Macan would run a similar size brake setup as a Supra or an M2, but with a lot more
Just
weight behind it.
massive.
So I'm curious how these vehicles actually work, how many laps they can really sustain at a good pace. It's convenient. Like, oh, look at me, I've got one car to do it all. And I used to be about that life. When I had my STI, I was like, damn, this is my winter car, my summer car, my track car, my people carrier, and it's a wagon. I literally could move so much stuff in that car. But at the end of the day, I wasn't really happy about how it performed on track. It's great at
And
everything else, but just I not my cup of tea when it comes to a track car. It's just too compromised, and it's like, yeah, you could probably do things to make it better, but I don't know. I don't want it to be like a huge money pit. But yeah, I find that, yeah, SUV is kind of a jack of all trades kind of thing. But I don't know how I feel about putting like fat track tires on an SUV because, one, they just evaporate because of the weight
hmm,
and the G-force. But two, it's like well, the nice thing is you could. Urus is kind of small though. I wonder if you could carry your track tires and wheels to the track, swap them there.
I'm thinking like if it's 325, those are huge 22-inch wheels, and then the
Yeah,
tire on top of that. I don't even know if you can stack them like vertically
you
inside the cabin.
you can, but it's like the Urus is really small. The trunk of the Urus is quite small. A
Right.
Cayenne could probably swallow it. X5 for sure.
Yeah.
Bentayga for sure, but a Urus maybe not. Yeah.
Who's gonna track a Bentayga?
Apparently Bentley.
Yeah, to Pikes Peak that one
Pikes Peak.
time.
It's very irrelevant, but it's a cool race.
Absolutely. I mean, I was watching Randy Pope's drive
Incredibly
that.
dangerous.
Yeah. Well, Randy is a veteran race car driver. He drove the model, I think it was a Model S,
Yeah, the
up Pikes
unplugged
Peak,
one.
unplugged one. Yeah, and he got into a little bit of a doozy last year when he went off track. Luckily, there was like a runoff area where he was. It wasn't as bad as a few years back. I remember there was a big one. An
Yeah,
Evil went
just
off
keep
the.
rolling and rolling.
Yeah, that one was. Yeah. Anyways, Pikes Peak, definitely a place where you can settle some scores, I guess. But another place that people like to settle scores.
Yeah, the iconic Nurburgring
The
in
one that
Germany.
James May doesn't care about and hates.
Frankly, it's. I mean, let's talk about the story first. But
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. So the story is a new Nurburgring record is now held for the Taycan
For production EV.
production EV. It's 7-minute 33,350. It's 2 seconds faster than the Plaid, but the Plaid wasn't the current Plaid. And it's not the Plaid that they're going to be releasing with the upgraded brakes and whatnot. So, I mean, it could fall back to Tesla in the future, but for now, Taycan holds that. I mean,
yeah, it's a 5,000 pound car at the end of the day. So I'm curious, like at once, well, because all the manufacturers are moving towards making their sports cars electric or electrified. So I'm curious how that will turn out. Like I think because 733 is not that impressive of a time. It's not bad for an EV, but even 20, I would say 15 years ago, a lot of supercars were running this kind of speed. It's not like mind-blowingly fast. It's decent, like yeah, but it's at the same time there are a lot faster cars. Like I don't know, uh, off the top of my head, like a GT4 RS, it's around the same price as this, runs a 705 or 704, and so that's a 30-second gap. My problem with the Nurburgring, as I've mentioned like a million times, is that it's just too inconsistent of a track. Because just this past weekend we were down at the ridge and it was so hot, and it's like the car is just not performing the way it normally does. And now imagine that amplified over X hundreds of corners and an 8-minute long, 7-minute long track. Like it just, the inconsistency is so insane that it's like, yes, you've got drivers that can run super consistent times. I don't know how consistent you can be in a Taycan because it probably can only give you one lap at full throttle. But
yeah,
there's
that
so many
battery's not going to
turns.
last.
Yeah, there's so many turns. It's a 20-kilometer long track that I don't know why this is always the benchmark, because there's no, like, you can't replicate it.
Mhm.
So it's very non-scientific, because I think you come a different day, different time of year, whatever it may be, it's gonna give you different results, even if the car is exactly the same, the driver is exactly the same. What I'm more curious about is I want to see Randy Popes run this at Laguna Seca. I want to see the actual street car run at a normal track, a normal length track that, hey, he could probably turn 5 laps, and then we have a real lap time,
Yeah.
5-10 laps with the on one charge. That that to me makes more sense. That with electrification, this is probably going to be a one lap wonder. And that's the thing too with lap times is with the EV is you still probably can't run a normal track event. Like it's fast and all, but do we really care? Because it's not going to change your life that much. But we are on that path, right? Like eventually you're going to have tracks that all have EV charging, fast charging, ready to go. Batteries, cooling, all that stuff is going to be up to snuff.
So, sorry to interrupt your thought there, but when you're saying Laguna Seca giving someone that has the power to put down consistent laps, I was like, oh wait, Car and Driver does that because they do the lightning lap at Laguna. Porsche Taycan Turbo 255.2, which is matching an M5.
Oh, that's not Laguna. That's
Was it not Laguna?
255 is not Laguna.
Oh,
That's,
right. No,
VIR
sorry. Lightning,
or
it's Virginia. Sorry.
yeah, VIR. Yeah, Laguna should be like in the 130s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just really slow cars.
I think the Model S has the record at Laguna right now. And so, yeah, really want to see because this Taycan, they say it's a street legal car, and it kind of is, it kind of isn't because it's got a cage in it for quote unquote safety.
Safety.
But man, having driven a caged race car for my first time last month, I was like, damn, this is something else. Like the rigidity and the directness is so much better than any street car. And there was my CRX, which that's a very flimsy car, but you add a cage into it, and it's like, damn, this car is really effective now. Yeah.
Yeah, but for Taycan, like the car itself, it's pretty rigid already. So I would assume that.
Well, you see, to put the cage in, they have to gut it a little bit. They put the bucket seats in, and all this stuff adds up. It's like no longer streetcar because you know what?
Yeah.
If it was rigid enough, and it's past road safety, crash testing and whatnot, they could just run it as is. But the fact is, it's going to be faster with the cage, with the seat, because the cage doesn't weigh that much, but the overall stiffness is going to be better.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And when you cage a car, to me, like I have the same issue with Global Time Attack. Like Global Time Attack, it's that race series. They go all around America. I don't know if they do Canada too. Maybe next year, I think. But they go all around America, and people, race their cars time attack style. And they have a street class, but you look at the cars that run street class, they have diffusers and splitters that stick out 2 feet. The wing is like a foot above the car roof. Like it's at which point, like it's fully gutted, it's caged. It's not. Where do we draw the line between what's a race car, what's a street car, right? Like, oh, this still has a working radio. Like that's about it. There's not very much that like you could. Like to me, a streetcar is like I could drive, maybe not in Vancouver, but let's say I could drive in Richmond and not get pulled over. But you're running a straight pipe exhaust cage, huge splitter, huge canards, huge wing, all this kind of stuff. To me, it's not a streetcar anymore, and a caged car is not a streetcar to me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and they did the same thing with the Cayenne Turbo. With the Turbo GT, whatever, that set the SUV record around Nurburgring. Let's see, that was 759. So that's quite a bit. No, sorry, that is not 759. That car ran a 733.9. So it ran the same time as it ran the same time as the Taycan, but probably more consistent. Like you could probably go for a second lap, and because even though your fuel tank might be a quarter down,
you're not losing performance.
You're not losing performance. In fact, you're probably gaining performance on that second lap.
Yeah,
marginally lighter. Yeah, but no, the Taycan and the Cayenne run very similar speeds, very respectable. Like this is faster than early GTRs, the R35s, LFA, this type of car. Like it's fast. There's no denying that. But
speaking of Cayenne, there's something that they brought up recently.
Yeah,
something they could have made, and I'm very upset that they didn't. So what they have shown off here is it was a one-off thing. They made a Cayenne convertible. I mean, there's something about convertible SUVs that I love.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
okay,
that's
sure.
your do-it-all vehicle. I was talking about it earlier, but jack of all trades. But an SUV can go off-roading. You can go on-roading. You can not really. You can't. Well, in the
Well,
case of the Cayenne and the Murano and the Evoque, you can't really carry many people. You can't really carry any luggage. But the Cayenne's got kind of decent on-road chops and lap times, as we mentioned. So had they keep developing this Cayenne convertible, who knows? Maybe we would see.
so, so the funny thing is, we have our kicking tires RAV6, as Justin likes to call it. We were very close to getting rid of that for a Cayenne, but we didn't go for it because we're like, you know what, this cost of everything, it's just gonna be more compared to a Toyota.
Yeah, harder to
However,
work on. Yeah.
if they had this Cayenne
Convertible, I would
convertible,
have been swayed.
no problem. I mean, look,
Off-roading, open top, open. It's just a different experience.
like all the Wrangler guys right now, it's just like that's just every day. That's normal. Like I get it, but
Yeah.
that's a Wrangler. It's always been that way. But
Yeah.
a Cayenne, a Murano Cross Cabriolet.
Yeah, I never seen this Cayenne concept. Like, if you haven't seen it, Google it. It is one of the ugliest cars you've ever seen.
It's bad. From
Yeah.
A-pillar
But
back,
you know
it's just
what?
bad.
You know what? When this Cayenne, it's the whole story and the whole reason Porsche's talking about this right now is it's 20 years of Cayenne from '02 to 2022. The Cayenne first generation, I think it's called the 957, one of the most hated cars out there. I don't know if everyone has kind of forgotten that how badly they talk trash about this car, but Porsche purists hated it because they're like, this is a sports car company, you can't be making SUVs. SUV people hate it because they're like, this, you can't go, like,
It's not a
I don't know,
true,
it's not a
yeah.
real truck. It's like, what is this? And just people in general were like, this thing is ugly. And looking back at it now, you see this pre-facelift first gen, like '03, '04 Cayenne, and it looks okay. Like, to me,
The,
it's inoffensive
the
because we've
front
just gotten so used to it. That fried egg look.
the front end was okay. It was the back of the Cayenne that hurt. The taillights, they're just this red blob. There's
Yeah,
there's nothing about it that said this is a nice car. That was the biggest thing for me
yeah.
because
But
the
then now
Touareg
you
looked
pull
better.
up in one, and then you're like, there's nothing wrong with this. Like,
Well,
it's
yeah,
not pretty, but
no.
like, man, people hated this car.
I
People hated
remember
the Cayenne.
I remember when the Cayenne first came out, the Cayenne Turbo. It dethroned the Subaru Forester XT as the fastest SUV from 0 to 60 at that time. It was
Which still
something I
wasn't
remember.
that fast.
I remember it was like Car and Driver, like reading those magazines
Yeah.
when I was a kid. It's just like I remember exactly
I
that
remember
phrase.
driving this first gen Cayenne Turbo the first time, like, damn, this thing is slow. Like, if you step on it, it will be fast. Like, if you off a red light, if you brake torque it and you build boost, and like, it is fast. But just day to day driving, it felt so heavy and slow. It's the opposite of the RAV6, really. The
What's
RAV6 would have felt faster.
what's kind of interesting is the blurb, they talk about how the convertible top mechanism is basically the same as the current 911 Targa. So kind of how it
Yeah.
folds down. And that's actually kind of cool. I mean, they use, I mean, a kind of in a way like 20-year-old tech, I guess, in a current Porsche. But that's something that's kind of neat.
Mhm.
I do
So
like
it's
the
like the whole back clamshell would come up
kind
and
of opens.
swallow in the roof, and then it would open, or like, it would be an open top experience with no sign of a roof, because it's all hidden under the floor. I guess is what they mean by it's like the new
I I
current Targa.
do I do like like sure, this is a convertible, we know that, right? But this kind of leads the way into like an actual Porsche coupe, a Cayenne coupe.
Hmm.
Because the doors
which
are
we have
longer,
now.
right? The doors are longer, so like actually is a coupe, unlike the current coupe, which actually has 4 doors.
Yeah.
This looks actually kind of like really cool.
Yeah. I mean, the Cayenne is the whole point, why I want to bring up that this car was so hated is that it is now like the every car. Like it's setting Nurburgring track records. It has winning, it's got a history at off-roading and maybe not so much these days, but it used to uh stand for something as far as those like big rallies, Trans-Siberia kind of stuff. And it's, to some people, it's just that luxury SUV that like you're really, you flex it. It is a status symbol. It is a pretty nice car to own. Uh, Generally speaking, it's a pretty iconic vehicle that
Yeah.
did a lot and a lot of controversy behind it, but it led to such a stream of sporty SUVs that like I don't know. I think the old guard just wasn't open to that idea that like, hey, an SUV should be like a Ford Explorer that just 3 rows, you carry a lot of people, tow a lot of stuff. And that nowadays the SUV concept is so much, I don't know, more.
It definitely takes that sport and the sport utility a lot more.
Yeah, sport and the luxury side too, I
Yeah.
think. Like you look at the Range Rover from pre this Cayenne, so like a 2000 Range Rover. That thing is still a tractor in comparison, right?
Hmm.
But you look at like how the market has shifted, and I think this Cayenne
This,
really
yeah.
really led the way. Obviously there's, the X5 and the ML and all these other European SUVs that came out. But yeah, to me, the Cayenne I think is kind of the king because it's always been the fastest, or generally is the fastest around a track, and it was also the model with the most off-road chops, I would say.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Which is the cool part right now is like you can potentially get one for like 5 grand. Maybe not today.
Mhm.
Like maybe like 3 years back, you could have got one for like 5 grand. That's
Yeah.
how cheap they are now. 20-year-old Porsche that was like 80K, $5,000.
Yeah. And today it's still like it still
Like
drives great. Like I remember when that V6 Cayenne came out too. That was kind of controversy because people were like, this is like they had the black plastic Cayenne badge. Like it looked very low rent. But
hmm,
going back to it now, I'm like, you know what? That car had a 280 horsepower VR6. It actually drove fine. To me, driving it in the city felt no slower than the turbo, even
hmm.
though the turbo had like 200 horsepower on it. As far as like regular driving, it wasn't bad, and uh, it's a VR6, so it's easier to maintain, I would say, than a V8 turbo. Um,
Yeah, that
yeah,
makes sense. I mean, 2 less spark plugs, at least.
yeah. I don't know why we're talking about a 20-year-old car, but no,
Buy one,
Cayenne.
don't.
Buy one or don't. I don't really care. Uh, but I the convertible is cool.
Yeah,
But leading into other open top off road experiences,
yeah.
one of the signature or most iconic open top off roaders that, you know, not that common, probably never seen one in Canada, but they are uh, an icon in like California, which is the Meyers Manx, which is that kind of beetle looking dune buggy
It's
car.
it's a Beetle with the Beetle body taken off of it.
Mhm.
This fiberglass body slapped onto it, and a lot of people like fully modify it. I mean,
Mhm.
the Mars makes like it's such a big cult following that Grand Tour did a whole episode, actually 2 episodes, because they had two back-to-back episodes about it.
Mm.
And there's one that had like a V8 in it. There's lifted, like you can do a lot to these cars.
Mm.
They're so cool. But they're coming back in 2023 with an all-electric version, which is actually kind of cool. But
Yeah.
before I get to the specs, I want to talk quickly about the looks. This looks great.
Yeah, that little
Absolutely great.
froggy car with big tires and
Yeah. It
looks like a lot of travel, the suspension, no overhangs. Like
yeah.
this thing would be sick to commute in, and you can because you can get this with a 60 kilowatt hour battery. I don't know why you would really need one because where are you going with that? Why do you
Yeah.
need all this range? Because this car probably weighs very little.
Wait, was this
Off-roading, you're going to
60
lose a
or
lot of range.
40 kilowatt hour?
I think there was.
It was 40 or 20.
Ah,
So it gives you either a 300-mile range or a 150-mile range. But I mean, like,
nice.
still a 40 kilowatt hour, 300-mile range, that's still a lot. But
Yeah.
what I love about it is it looks like the regular buggy. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't look
Yeah, they
like a
haven't changed any. They've
crazy.
only, smoothed out some edges, add some LED touches here and there, but
Yeah,
that is 100% a Myers Manx.
yeah.
Yeah.
General Grabber ATs on them look good. Like it looks like the original. Other than
Yeah.
the back's been updated a little bit with the integrated taillights. But I still really like
Yeah.
this
If this
because
thing is street legal here, I would totally daily it.
it's the perfect car. It really is. It's
Yeah, like,
convertible, off-road, on-road,
well, and you could
does
put
it
a
all.
hard top on it in
Yeah,
case it rains.
yeah. Well,
You
I mean the
can get a version with
the
a hard top and a windshield.
you just have open doors on the side, but you'll get a little wet.
Okay. That's what jackets like. You don't not wear a jacket just because you're in a car. Like, I don't know.
I take my jacket off when I get in the car.
Well, don't. If you drive a Myers Banks, just don't.
It's
But
not an option for you.
yeah, but
Uh,
otherwise, it's totally livable. People ride their bikes year round.
yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
So the bigger battery, they didn't talk about the smaller one, but the bigger battery with the 40 kilowatt, it's 202 horsepower, 240 pound-feet of torque, fed to the rear wheels through two electrical motors. So it's exactly how it should be. It's a
It's
rear-wheel
gonna be
drive,
great off road because it's got dual motors, even though it's
and
on the back,
I mean, power-wise, this is a ton more than what you had before.
like a
I mean,
Beetle
the
motor.
little air-cooled Beetle motor barely made 100 horsepower, if that. I think it was like
Probably
70
like
horsepower.
40.
Yeah, like this
Yeah.
is a ton more power. And you know
I
what?
want to
To
know how much it is. I want to know if I can drive it on the streets
so,
here. Because the press pictures has a rear license plate. A
it
front
does.
license plate would look terrible on this thing.
And it's a
Uh,
California license plate too. Of course it'll be, right?
yeah, California, like they're pretty strict on their motor vehicle laws. So if it's got a plate there, it must be street legal.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's some beta program, um, but yeah,
Well,
this
the
is one of
first
those.
batch of them, 50 only, it's gonna ship in 2023.
That's pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This thing is just it's so cool looking.
I
Because
kind of wish they integrated a little bit more tech. So looking at the interior, I feel like there's ways that they could have given it just a little bit of creature comforts.
yeah, there's really nothing
This is very much just like a scooter on four wheels, or like an adventure bike on four wheels.
because Volkswagen did an ID buggy before. I'll pull
Mhm.
it up here. This ID buggy, it's basically what they try to do. Meyers
Yeah.
Minx kind of thing, right? But it doesn't have that same presence. It looks like a frog. It's super big. It's wide. It doesn't have that buggy look that
Mhm.
it should have. Like they got a picture of it two side by side. There's no resemblance whatsoever. It's kind of like, yeah, it's just kind of like whatever. But this Meyers Minx,
I don't know.
it's
I kind of like the
perfect.
VW one too.
I think the VW one's too big. It's too wide. That's really what I don't like about it.
It's more
Comparing
pedestrian
comparing to the Myers Minx, it's the perfect size.
because it's all tire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. Absolutely love it. Anyways, let's move along. Also, another throwback. Um, MTV. I mean, back a long time ago, probably like 20 years ago
Early
now.
2000s. Yeah.
Yeah,
Around when the Cayenne came out.
everything, every story's around there. MTV had a TV show called Pimp My Ride. with Ice Cube.
No,
Great.
Exhibit.
No, they had Ice Cube as well at the end, didn't they? It was Exhibit, but they wait. Let me. Pimp.
Everyone knows it as Exhibit. I don't know if there was an Ice Cube.
I thought Cube did do a few episodes.
Exhibit is the iconic
Oh,
in my
maybe I'm
ride.
wrong. Never mind. Yo,
Jimmy
okay.
does not know his 90s and 2000s
Yeah,
rap stars.
I really don't. Anyways, it was Exhibit.
God.
I swear there was something.
It's always
Anyways,
it's the Yo Dog. There's a whole series of memes about it.
okay.
Come
Anyways,
on, Jimmy.
I've watched it a lot back then. It's been a long time. Anyways, excuses over.
They're not all the same. Like just because they have the same skin color.
It's not that. It's I just remember. I remember there's something. Anyways, all right. Anyways,
Yeah, iconic show.
Super iconic show. Everyone watched it.
They always pick a car that's like down in the dumps, and the owner also has like some kind of loser story, and somehow they still hang on to this car. And then they put like they're like, oh, you're drowning in student loan debt? Here's like a popcorn machine in the back of your Chevy Cavalier. Or hey, I put a fish tank in your falling apart minivan.
It was all bad.
It was all bad because they don't really look at the mechanicals or anything. They're just like, hey, you're into video games. And they put like a TV on the headrest or something. Like, I don't know. It was random stuff.
If you're interested, like if you just search up the real truth or untold story behind Pimp My Ride, you'll find a bunch of videos about it. Essentially, none of the cars were looked after. Some of the cars, like if they give you like screens on the outside before they actually give it to you, they take the screens out because it's not legal to have those screens like on the outside of a vehicle. There was one donut machine car. There was like chandeliers. Like a lot of stuff just never worked, and they were just given to the whoever it was. I remember a YouTuber, Hoovy's Garage. He had the Caravan that was part of the Pimp My Ride thing as well. Like he bought it recently, maybe in the past year or two, and the car is just absolute trash. Like everything is falling apart. But it's been 20 years since it's been pimped, right? But still, it's just
it'd be so embarrassing to drive one. Like anywhere you go, you'd get vandalized for sure. Like,
but back to the story. Pimp My Ride is coming back to the UK though, not for the US. So with partnership by eBay Motors, they're gonna, I'm sure, pay for a lot of this, but it's gonna be on MTV UK's YouTube channel, so it's going to be readily available for anyone to watch. And from what I can see, they have very similar kind of like feel about it, where they have this is a British rapper, Lady Lasher. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly.
Lisa, but Leisure.
Oh, okay. Well, clearly you know more about this than I do. But like, it's the same type of show. I mean, there's a kid here with Mitsubishi 3000 GT. Like, there's like the car doesn't look horrible, but there's like rust around the side. There's like other cars as well, of course. There's one person with a Beetle. There's a person with a Vauxhall.
Zafira.
I mean, yeah, it's questionable, some of these cars that they have on this kind of preview.
That's the whole point, is they take a crappy car and they don't necessarily make it any better, but they put a lot of money and work into it.
In this Vauxhall, it shows that they're putting in subs already. So like we know, and you can see all these people are super excited. Isn't this a smart 4.4?
That might be a Toyota Aygo.
Aygo or 4.4?
The one that they played soccer with.
Oh.
Yeah. Toyota Aygo.
That makes sense.
Like
as
the
well.
Top Gear.
Because the hatch is a single piece glass. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, what is this? A 3000 GT again? What's the engine?
The shop looks nice.
The shop looks great.
Yeah.
Foxel. Yeah. Some
Notice not a lot of mechanical work going on. So they have hoists, but there are no tools.
well,
So
they have really nice cars beside it. It's like
mhm.
S classes and whatnot. So like who knows, But I guess we'll see, right?
Yeah,
I'm
it's
interested.
always a
I want to
fun
watch.
watch. Like don't look at these like, oh, these are legitimate bills. Anyone is actually proud to own or proud to have worked on, but it's still a fun watch.
Oh, absolutely. It's kind of like have you ever watched Monster Garage?
So like a Netflix show.
No, Monster Garage was also a 2000s show. It's with Jesse James,
Oh,
the fabricator bike builder.
yeah.
He takes like ideas, crazy ideas, and puts them in the car. Like there was a car that he made to fly. There's like amphibious cars. Like it's just very similar type of thing. Just like yeah, but oh, it was a Citroen, not a
Ah,
Igo. Just saw the front end of it.
ah.
There we go, Citroen. Wait, wasn't Citroen the same as the Igo? I remember there was something about that. Anyways,
Don't know.
but yeah, if you're interested, MTV UK for your Pimp My Ride episodes. It's coming out. When did they say? Premieres August 19th. So not far at all. Watch that first episode and then take a look and see, give it a good rating or whatever you need to do to get these shows back. I think it'll be kind of cool to see more of this. Oh, here's a 3000 GT underneath the hood. You got that V6. Looks like the NA version, non-twin turbo.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of like that car, the 3000 GT.
Oh yeah, I saw. There's a really clean one on that's always it's near Bridgeport and number 5. I always see it.
Hmm.
Super nice car. Wouldn't want to own it, but I like looking at it.
I remember it was like a technological marvel for them.
Super expensive too.
V6
When
twin
it was
turbo
new,
four-wheel steering, I think it was as well.
those cars were 911 money.
Oof.
Yeah. That car, the Supra, the
But
NSX. NSX is Ferrari money actually.
yeah, but it was Jackie Chan backed it.
Oh, shifting
I'm,
it.
I'm
Is that the
sure.
car he shifted?
Great movie. No, I think back then Jackie Chan wasn't he sponsored by Mitsubishi?
Yes.
Yeah, so like all his cars were
Probably
Mitsubishi, and he was like,
GTO.
and all his like movies had Mitsubishis in them. Anyways, let's
Moving
go
on.
back. Moving on. Let's talk about the new iD4. I mean, it's not new really, but they call it the new iD4. What they've done here is created a brand new model, one that's slightly cheaper, so that it's easier for you to get into. 44,000 Canadian dollars, 38,000, I think, US.
Mhm.
So
So $4 grand cheaper.
what they've done to make it the cheaper version is put a smaller battery in it, 58 kilowatt hour, which comes with, I think, 330-ish kilometer range versus 444 on the bigger battery.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great.
I think I would not even consider saving that $4 grand. I think they already do not build enough of the Pro. They already cannot keep up production. Why do we need a second model? It's not like you're hurting for sales. I don't know. To me, 400 is kind of the sweet spot, right? Like even though the iD4 they've been proven to do pretty good range, like their range estimates are pretty realistic, and you can probably even exceed them depending how you drive. I just don't. To me, it's like I'm spending upwards of 45 50k. Like I don't think the $4 grand really makes a difference. To me,
Mm.
I would just want, like, I get having a dual motor and a rear wheel drive one. I get that, but to me, like the slightly smaller battery, I don't see the appeal. It's going to be obsolete sooner because people will see the range 5 years down the road. people are going to say, oh, this car realistically only has sub 300 range. I don't want it because
Well,
brand new it has 334. But
that's the thing. Like I've said this before and I'll say it again, but I just don't think electric cars are cars that you should be buying. It's a lease car. You should return it in 3-4 years because the car is going to be out of date. The battery is not going to be the greatest. It's not going to hold its charge as well. You want to get rid of it. So like in my like what I'm thinking is like if I want just a relatively inexpensive electric car, iD4 44,000 with 300 so kilometer range, it's plenty for me anyways. Like my commute is short, right? So for me, I don't mind a 300 kilometer or so range electric car. And the iD4 is pretty nice on the inside. It's, relatively spacious. It gives you everything that you really need in an electric car. The only thing is at 44, I could also buy the Ionic. No, Ionic
Probably
was
not.
40. No, Ionic
You can
was
get a
45.
Bolt, which the iD4 is a better buy than a Bolt, maybe. But the Bolt has more range. That's hard. That's hard to say. The
Oh
Bolt,
yeah, Ionic went up in price. It was 45. Now it's 47.
because let's say 330, and this is rear wheel drive only. So anywhere east of BC, you wouldn't really want this car anyways, or east of the lower mainland, I should say, in Canada.
Yeah, that's true.
You probably wouldn't really want this car, and I don't know. To me, it's like I could afford that 4K because to me that 4K, it's money you get back in the end. Because this car, if you ask me 4 years down the road, looking at these cars side to side, one car has 100 kilometers more range. I'm going with that easily.
Oh,
or for 3 to 4 grand more.
a boat is even cheaper at 38.
Mm.
And the EUV, the slightly bigger version of it, is 40.
Oh, nice. And the Leaf doesn't have this kind of range, right?
I think the Leaf does now. Because the Leaf, they have that bigger battery now. Let's take a quick look here. Leaf. Where are you on the website?
340 kilometer with the 60 kilowatt hour battery.
But that's
the 61 is like a 50K car, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 45 for the 60 kilowatt hour battery.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, get an iD4 over a Leaf.
Yeah, you wouldn't want that. They don't have pricing for the area just
I guess
yet.
that must be why. That's why they make this offering. That it does compete more in that entry level EV range.
Right.
Whereas the Pro model, you're getting up into, hey, why don't I spend a little bit more and get one of the more premium offerings out there, like the Ionic, like the Mach-E, like the Tesla Model 3. It gets up there, especially when you load up a Pro model. So that's fair. But yeah, to me, I think the 3-4K for way more range is worth it.
It's worth it, like if this is your primary vehicle.
But that's the thing. It's not, even if you may not use all that range, I think you get it back in the end.
But if you just lease it, right? Like you won't care about that as much. That's the thing.
Can you
That's
lease an iD4?
I think. Oh well, there's nothing available on their site anymore because.
Yeah, because I thought they were like a 3-year wait. You can't even place an order for one anymore.
Well, yeah, that's just Volkswagen problems because Russia, Germany thing. A Soul EV, it's only 42.
Doesn't you have to drive a Kia Soul?
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I don't mind a Kia Soul at all.
It's just like one of those like kind of embarrassing cars, but I kind of like it's like a guilty pleasure. Like we're not the ones to say because we wouldn't mind driving a Murano Cross Cabriolet. I wouldn't mind driving an Evoque convertible.
Actually, the Evoque convertible really cool, but
it actually has good lines. Like
I just can't buy an Evoque convertible. Like you know why, and I know why. Just like
I would buy one with like the best extended warranty on the market.
You know what sucks about the Soul EV though? No cool colors. You'll get gray,
Black.
blue, black, or white now. What
Yeah.
happened to my green? My neon green?
Yeah. That's the
Yeah.
meme. That's the meme. Well, you can get the Ionic, the regular one, right? Or the Kona Electric.
Um,
This
I was looking at Kona Electric. It's 46 for Kona
what?
Electric. Yeah,
Okay, the Kona Electric is now no longer relevant.
it's quite expensive. And then
It used to be like low
I
40s.
think the
That's what I was.
Ionic is dead.
Oh, okay, the Prius looking one.
Yeah, the Prius looking one. I was going to say something nicer, but there's nothing.
Like
Uh,
people, because it's confusing. Because people, Ionic used to be the car, and then
yeah,
now we have Ionic 5, Ionic 6.
6. Yeah,
So
7's coming out shortly.
so when you tell people, oh, it's the Prius looking one, they might know what it is. It's not
Yeah,
that popular, uh, so maybe not. But yeah, if you're buying, I still think it's worth it to get it
to get
because
a bigger battery.
I think you'll get your money back
Hmm.
because I think the smaller battery cars, people are gonna see 58 kilowatt hours in 2026 and be like, what the hell? I don't want to be seen with a 58 kilowatt hour battery. Whereas a 77 is still a respectable amount of range, even 4 years down the road, because you don't want to end up like early Leaf buyers
Well,
or
that's
an
the thing.
iMeaf buyer.
Like, oh, you definitely don't want to be an iMeaf buyer, but I personally even looked at an early Leaf recently. Not recently, like in the past months, but like in a last year, I was looking at a Leaf because I could have got one for like 10 grand.
Mhm.
Sure, it only has like 80-kilometer range, but it's perfect for the commute that I need for less than a 10 grand car. Don't have to pay for
Uh,
gas. It's okay.
80, and then it like gets a little bit cold, and then
Then
you're
it's like
like,
50.
it's like 50, and then you get stuck in a traffic jam, and then you lost 10K just sitting in traffic
It's
because
fine.
running the heat.
It,
It's scary. It can get scary.
just
Yeah.
have that tow hook installed in the front. Make sure you have a tow rope. I mean, how scary could that be? Get someone to tow you as they're towing you. You regen, you get power.
Hmm.
Win-win.
Yes.
But yes, that's the new iD4. Slightly smaller battery for slightly less price. Justin thinks it's not worth it. I think maybe if you're leasing it and you really don't care about it, but also, I mean, it depends on availability. I really doubt that Volkswagen is going to make a lot of regular iD4s when they can make more monies from the iD4 Pro.
Yeah, and there's more demand for all-wheel drive in Canada at least. So
Yeah,
I think the allocation will ultimately uh
I mean, it's
push
only
the all-wheel
nine
drive.
grand more for all-wheel drive and a bigger battery.
Yeah,
And with the all-wheel drive, it's more power, quite a bit more too.
it's not expensive, and just
No,
the peace of mind to have the bigger battery, it seems worth it to me.
yeah, definitely kind of makes more sense that way.
Mm,
I think that's really it for this week. Anything else?
I think that is it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening in for this week. A little bit shorter, but we'll see you next week.